Welcome back to This is VANCOLOUR. My name is Mo Amir. Our featured guest tonight is a public opinion research dynamo, British Columbia's go-to guy when it comes to political polling. Here to talk voter turnout in BC's municipal elections, the president of Research Co. He is Mario Canseco. Mario, always a pleasure to see you.
It's great to see you too, Mo.
So when we talk about municipal elections happening throughout British Columbia, how would you describe voter turnout?
Depressing. Depressing, especially when we compare it to the way we vote in other elections.
Yeah.
We had 2 federal elections after 2018, and we had at least 3 out of 4 voters who were eligible casting a ballot. We had an election during the COVID-19 pandemic provincially, where we had more than half of those who were eligible to vote casting a ballot. And municipally, it drops down to 42%. In some municipalities, it drops down to 25%. So this is the shocking part for me. The fact that you have cities such as Langley, such as Coquitlam, where the decisions are being made by councils and mayors who were supported by the eligible vote of 1 in 4 people.
Yeah. So what troubles me is municipal governance and municipal politics really does affect your day-to-day life when it comes to garbage pickup, what your parks look like, what development in your community looks like, schooling, right? Like there's so many things that municipal governments are in charge of that really do affect how you live your life on a day-to-day basis. Why are people not engaged in this process as they are on a provincial level or a federal level? Or to be honest, even on looking at American politics.
Looking at American politics, looking at the NFL, numbers.
Sure.
There's so many people who are interested in other things.
Yeah.
Betting on sports, looking into the way certain things are going to happen, and we just don't have that thing municipally. I think there's a couple of issues at play. One of them is just how confusing this is. The fact that you have councillors being elected at large, which is unique for BC. The fact that you can only have 25 signatures and then you can run for office, which makes the ballot very complicated.
Just 25?
Just 25.
Okay.
And to me, this is always something that strikes me as an oddity.
Yeah.
In a place like Winnipeg, if you want to run for mayor, you need 250 signatures.
Seems reasonable.
In the 2018 election in Vancouver, we had 4 candidates who couldn't get 250 votes. So
we had a lot of candidates, to be fair, in that election.
One of the reasons is you get 25 friends, you order some pizza, and then you get them to sign your papers, and then you expect to have the kind of treatment that you're affording the candidates who actually have a shot at winning this.
Right. Wow. So is this something that we see across British Columbia, or are there any trends where maybe there's more voter turnout or less voter turnout in urban areas versus suburban versus rural? Or is it kind of all across the board? We're all below 50%, maybe around that 40% turnout range?
Usually smaller communities do well higher than the norm.
Oh, they do better.
Way better, because it's a smaller place. Bowen Island, for instance, you're looking at 80% of people voting. Small community, everybody knows each other. This is important. This is the way municipal elections used to be.
Right.
Oh, I have a friend who has a fantastic lawn. He should be in the park board. This is how it used to be 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Wait, did you say a fantastic lawn would qualify you to be on park board?
It used to be that way. This guy keeps a very nice lawn. I think he would be a wonderful addition to the park board.
Wow.
We didn't have parties. We didn't have phone banks. We didn't have the obsession with getting voters out.
Yeah.
It was a campaign about, hey, we're all friends here. And this is the way campaigns happen in smaller communities. But you move away from that. And it's ultimately about knocking on doors and meeting a voter who wants a solution to the Ukraine crisis. What are you going to tell them you're going to do from city council? Are you going to ignore what they want to talk about? Or are you going to tell them, this is really not my jurisdiction. What I really want to talk to you is permitting.
Right. And so this actually taps into the disconnect that I think some voters have. Like even when we talk about things like housing or the drug poisoning crisis, people expect a lot more from their city council than is actually within their jurisdiction or within their mandate. So is that part of the problem, that maybe voters don't actually understand what municipal governments are responsible for?
That is one of the reasons. And it's something that happens consistently when you're doing focus groups. You get 12 people in a room.
Yeah.
You ask them about the number one issue facing your municipality. And they go, I don't like the prime minister. Well, that's not really something that matters to your municipality, but this is the thing that is bugging you. This is why you're sitting here in a room with 11 other people from 5 to 6 on a Wednesday, right?
Wow.
This is what moves me. So part of the problem is confusion about what we're voting for, and also a sense of community that is built in larger areas. If you had a ward system, I want to know that I have a representative from my neighborhood.
Explain what a ward system is, because as you said, in BC, we don't have this, and I
Yes.
don't know if many people are familiar with that concept.
It's essentially the same way we elect people to the Legislative Assembly. You have districts in a specific city. You have wards. These two neighborhoods constitute a ward, and these are your council candidates, instead of having a list of 68 people where you choose 10 names.
Right, okay.
And
So you only
other
pick
cities do
one
it like
candidate
this.
or one person from your ward, and then the collection of each ward's representatives then makes up city council.
Well, and it would dramatically change the way we do things, because then you have to figure out as a party or as a slate where you're going to run specific people.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately what you have is the opportunity to know who to complain to, which is an essential component of our democratic system. My
Right.
MLA is this person. My MP is that person. I'm going to send them a note. I want to send a note to city council. Well, if your beef is housing, I would recommend these three councilors. If your beef is environmental, I would recommend these three councilors. No, who is my councilor? Well, it's all of them.
Right.
But in reality, it's nobody.
Right, okay. So is there evidence, though, that ward systems create better outcomes when it comes to voter turnout, that people will actually go to the poll, will get more interested if you have a ward system in place?
It's been a little bit better in the places where it happens. And, we can see at examples. For instance, Toronto this year has its own election. We're expecting turnout to be roughly at the same level that it was before. But people who care about their own ward care enough to go out there and cast a ballot. I think it will certainly simplify campaigns, particularly in Surrey and in Vancouver. I don't think you need a
long
ward.
ballots.
Very long ballots. I'm not suggesting that a ward system should be implemented in Belcarra,
Yeah.
but it's certainly an idea that could work.
What else can we do to engage the electorate, to engage voters, to actually take an interest in municipal governance? Because I know that my neighbors complain a lot about what's going on in their city, but so many of them are just disconnected from who's running and what their platforms are. So how do we get people involved?
I think it starts at the home. If you live in a place where you're 10 or 11 years old and everybody complains about the government and nobody does anything and they're all crooks, they're all terrible, you're going to grow up with a very cynical attitude towards politics. I am the
That's
youngest
how I
of
grew up,
7
Mario.
kids. Well,
I'm taking that very personally.
I had the other experience. I was the youngest of 7 kids.
Yeah.
And, if you wanted to participate at the dinner table, you'd better learn about politics.
Yeah.
And it was a way to become engaged to the point where this is what I do for a living now. It wasn't something that I thought would happen to me. But it starts in the family, learn about the things. And if you're going to be mad at the government, at least be mad about the right things and go cast your ballot when the opportunity arises.
So you're really putting this on personal responsibility as opposed to anything structural, aside from, adopting a ward system. Is there anything else we can do on a structural level that can actually get people to the polls?
There's a couple of things we could try. One of them is mandatory voting. Greece has it, Australia has it. People complain that if you do something like that, then we'll have all sorts of crazy parties. We already have all sorts of crazy parties. So it's not going to make that sense not to say that you want to see that happening.
Sure.
But one of the other things that we could do is to actually implement a runoff. This is the way some European countries elect their leaders. If you have a couple of mayoral candidates at 30-something or 20-something, get them to a runoff, and let's see who the majority of the voters actually prefer.
Speaking only to the city of Vancouver, what if we had like a charismatic person running for mayor? Maybe that would bring in more people to actually vote.
Well, the number one issue for me, if you want to get with the situation that we have at our disposal, if you want to get people to vote, you need a campaign based on ideas. You need a campaign that is not going to be essentially subjected to what the other rivals are doing or the specific things that they could have said. Negative campaigns turn off people. They motivate your base, but the base is getting smaller and smaller. What you want is for young people to become more involved, and that takes ideas, not attacks.
So you're throwing shade at the city of Vancouver's mayoral candidates right now?
Well, I think it's absolutely necessary. It hasn't been an inspiring campaign, and it has brought the worst of social media. Not only from the parties themselves in some cases, but also from the people who support some of the candidates. So it hasn't been a fun experience. If this is the first time you're voting in the city of Vancouver, you're definitely dissatisfied with the state of the campaign.
And really quickly, do you think that ultimately turns voters off, where they try to learn a little more about the candidates, they see the nastiness, and they go, yeah, no, I'll pass on this?
That can definitely happen.
Yeah.
But it's also something that has to do with the complexities of the system.
Yeah.
Park board, school board, council. You only have one vote for mayor, but you have a lot of votes for the other things. It takes a while to be able to know who you're voting for, and that's part of the problem that could be solved with a ward system. Here are my 7 candidates right here. I don't need to read about 58 others.
You've made a very compelling case. I know it's not going to be fixed overnight. Mario, I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure, Mo. Thank you.
Folks, that was the president of Research Co., a VANCOLOUR fan favorite. He is Mario Canseco. Now stick around, because after some business, do you think we should see more couples run together for public office, like Vancouver Mayor Kennedy Stewart and his wife Jeanette Ash? Obviously, I think that's pretty cool and kind of romantic. And more obviously, Katie Merrifield disagrees. We're going to present our arguments to help you decide where you stand. Well, actually, the super serious debate about the super serious things is up next. I'm Mo Amir. This is VANCOLOUR.